Evie! I know you're in there! Open this door! We need to talk! You can't keep on avoiding me! Just hear me out! Do you have another man in there? Who is there with you? Who the hell is banging that way?
Oh God, it's my ex-boyfriend!
Open the door! I said open it! Come out now! Open the door! I'm not leaving until you come out, Evie! Or you tell me there's someone else in there!
Seojun's voice, loud enough that Mrs. Kim down the hall probably heard it. Loud enough that the whole floor knew someone was making a scene at her door. Evie's hand jerked. Coffee sloshed over the rim of the cup, splashing across the counter in a dark puddle. Behind her, she heard Giwan move. Not loud, not obvious, but she felt the shift in the air as he rose from the couch. Felt the particular stillness of a predator about to strike. When she turned, he was already 3 steps from the door. And he looked different. Gone was the man who'd shared breakfast with her. Gone was the almost gentle expression he'd been wearing moments ago. This was someone else entirely. Someone harder, colder, dangerous in a way that made her stomach drop. His jaw was set. His eyes were flat and dark. His entire body language had shifted into something that radiated quiet, controlled violence. This was the crime lord. The man Seoul feared. "I'll handle it," he said, voice flat and cold as winter. "No." The word came out sharper than she intended. She moved without thinking, closing the distance between them, her hand shooting out to grab his forearm. The moment her fingers made contact with his bare skin, they both froze. He was warm, solid. She could feel the shift of muscle and tendon beneath her palm. Could feel his pulse, steady and strong despite the tension radiating through his frame. He looked down at her hand on his arm. His jaw tightened, a muscle jumping at the corner. When his eyes lifted to hers, something blazed in their dark depths, something hot and dangerous and barely restrained. "He can't see you here," she whispered, acutely aware of how close they were standing, how her hand was still on his arm, how she could feel the heat radiating off his body. "Giwan, he can't know you're here." Another bang on the door, louder this time, more insistent. "Evie, I know you're avoiding me. Just open the door." Giwan's eyes never left hers. For one long moment, she thought he'd argue, thought he'd push past her and do something that would shatter the careful illusion of normalcy she'd been maintaining. Then his hand came up, large and warm, and covered hers where it rested on his forearm. "Get rid of him," he said quietly. "Fast." It wasn't a request. She nodded, not trusting her voice. He stepped back, and the loss of contact felt like a physical wound. She watched him retreat into the shadows near the kitchen, watched him become still and silent in a way that made him nearly invisible. A man who knew how to disappear. Evie took a breath. 2. Tried to calm her racing heart. Omer failed completely. She walked to the door on shaking legs and opened it just a crack, just enough to see Seojun's face, not enough for him to see inside. And God, he looked terrible. His usually perfectly styled hair was disheveled, sticking up in places like he'd been running his hands through it obsessively. Dark circles shadowed his eyes that were red-rimmed and slightly swollen. He was wearing the same Navy University jacket he'd worn yesterday, the same jeans. His shirt was wrinkled. This was Min Seojun, who never had a hair out of place. Min Seojun, who matched his socks to his shoelaces. Min Seojun, who ironed his jeans and color-coordinated his entire wardrobe. Looking at him hurt, not because she still loved him. She was startled to realize that feeling had faded to almost nothing, but because she'd done this to him. She'd turned him into this desperate, disheveled version of himself. Finally, he breathed, and the relief in his voice was almost painful to hear. "God, Evie, why aren't you answering my calls? I've been trying to reach you for days. I've texted you 30 times. 30. Do you know how worried I've been? Behind her, hidden in the shadows, Giwan was listening. She could feel his attention like a weight on her back. Could practically feel him cataloging every word, every gesture, every inflection in Seojun's voice. We broke up, Seojun, she said, keeping her voice gentle but firm. There's nothing to talk about. There's everything to talk about. His voice rose, echoing in the narrow hallway. Somewhere down the corridor, a door opened. Mrs. Kim, definitely, always hungry for drama. I made a mistake, okay? I know I did. I know it was stupid and wrong, and I hurt you, but it was just a dare. A stupid, meaningless dare that I wish I could take back every single second of every single day. You kissed her, Seojun. Evie's throat tightened around the words, around the memory of that night. Of all the girls in that room, of all the people who could have dared you, you chose to kiss Songjia, the girl who's made my life hell since freshman year. The girl who accidentally spilled coffee on my thesis. The girl who told everyone I only got into the nursing program because of affirmative action. You kissed her. Pain flashed across Seojun's face, raw and real. She dared me first. I wasn't thinking. I was drunk, and my friends were all watching, and He stopped, took a shaky breath. You're right. You're absolutely right. I didn't think. I didn't think about how it would make you feel. I didn't think about what it would look like. I didn't think about you at all in that moment, and that was unforgivable. But Eevee, please. Please. I'm begging you. He stepped closer to the door. Eevee resisted the urge to step back, to widen the gap between them. I miss you, he continued, and his voice cracked on the words. I miss texting you good morning. I miss our coffee dates before class. I miss the way you explain medical terminology to me, even though I never understand it. I miss the way you laugh at my terrible jokes. I miss holding your hand. I miss us. Don't you miss us at all? Did she? 2 weeks ago, hell, even 1 week ago, the answer would have been a resounding yes. Missing Seojun had felt like missing a limb. Painful and disorienting and wrong. But that was before. Before a dark alley. Before dark eyes and a dangerous smile. Before someone said her name like it was something precious. Before a kiss that had rewired something fundamental in her chest. Before everything changed. I regret it every single day, Seojun was saying, and there were actual tears in his eyes now. Tears. Seojun never cried. Every single second. If I could go back in time and punch myself in the face before I was stupid enough to kiss her, I would do anything to take it back, Evie. Anything. Just please. His voice broke completely. Please give me another chance. Let's start over. Let me prove that I can be better. That I can be the boyfriend you deserve. The boyfriend she deserved. The phrase stuck in her mind, turning over and over. What did she deserve? Someone safe? Someone uncomplicated? Someone whose biggest mistake was a drunken kiss at a party? Someone whose life made sense? Someone who wouldn't get her killed? Or someone who made her heart race just by existing in the same room? Someone who saw her so clearly it terrified her? Someone who looked at her like she was oxygen? Someone dangerous and impossible and completely wrong for her in every way that mattered? Evie? Seojun's voice pulled her back. Are you even listening to me? And just like that, Evie's entire world tilted. 1 minute, she's breaking up with her boyfriend. The next, there's a bleeding crime lord on her couch. And now her ex is at her door, while said crime lord is hiding in her kitchen. Quick question. Do you have a Mrs. Kim in your life? That nosy neighbor whose door cracks open the second voices get raised? Drop a comment if you're dealing with a Mrs. Kim. Or be honest, are you the Mrs. Kim? Welcome to Seoul Afro Stories, where love is dangerous and nobody falls for the right person at the right time. Hit subscribe because you do not want to miss what happens when that door closes and she turns around to face him. Link to the full series in the description. Where are you watching from? Drop your city below. Now, let's get back to it. I'm listening. Then say something. Anything. Just talk to me, please. She opened her mouth, closed it. What could she possibly say? That her life had imploded in the last week? That she'd saved a crime lord's life and hidden him in her apartment? That every time she looked at Seojun now, all she felt was a vague, distant guilt mixed with absolutely nothing? Seojun was watching her face, and something shifted in his expression. His eyes narrowed slightly, studying her with the kind of attention he usually reserved for difficult exam questions. "You look different," he said slowly, carefully. "I noticed it on campus the other day, but I thought I was imagining it. But you really do look different, Evie. Something's changed." Her heart skipped. "I'm just tired, Seojun. It's more than that." He was still studying her, and she hated it. Hated feeling like a specimen under a microscope. "You look, I don't know, older?" "No, not older. Just different. Like something happened that changed you fundamentally. Like you're not the same person who broke up with me 2 weeks ago. Something happened that changed you fundamentally." If he only knew. If he had any idea that 3 days ago, she'd been kneeling in a dark alley, covered in a stranger's blood. "Is there..." Seojun's voice dropped. Became careful, suspicious. "Is there someone else?" The pause was too long. Way, way too long. Behind her, hidden in the shadows of her apartment, Giwan went completely still. She couldn't see him, but she could feel it. Could feel his attention lock onto her like a physical touch. "No," she said finally. The lie tasted bitter on her tongue. "There's no one else." But even she could hear the hollowness in her own voice. The way the words didn't quite ring true. The way they sat in the air between her and Seojun like something false and fragile. Seojun heard it too. She watched the realization move across his face like a shadow. "You're lying," he said. And now there was an edge to his voice. Hurt, bleeding into anger. "Oh my God, you're lying. There is someone else. That's why you've been avoiding me. That's why you look different. That's why you won't even look me in the eye right now." "Seojun, who is he?" The demand came out sharp, too loud. A door opened further down the hall. Definitely Mrs. Kim now, not even pretending not to listen. "How long has this been going on? Were you seeing him while we were still together? Is that why you're so angry about the kiss? Because you'd already checked out? Because you'd already moved on?" "Stop." The word came out harder than she intended, firmer. "Just stop, okay? There is no one else. I'm not seeing anyone. I broke up with you because you hurt me. Because you made a choice that showed me exactly where I ranked in your priorities. Because I can't be with someone I don't trust anymore. But you could trust me again," he pressed. "If you gave me the chance." "I can't give you that chance, Seojun. I'm sorry. I really am, but I can't." "Is it because of him?" "There is no him. Then why won't you look at me?" And he was right. She was staring at the door frame, at the hallway, at the chipped paint on the wall, anywhere but his face. Because if she looked at him, really looked at him, he'd see the truth written all over her. That, yes, there might be someone else. "We'll talk," she said finally, still not meeting his eyes. "At school. Not here, not now. We'll sit down somewhere quiet and I'll explain everything I can explain." "But Seojun," she finally looked at him, met his hurt, angry, desperate eyes. "You need to give me space right now, please. I'm asking you as someone who cared about you. Please just give me some space." Something in her voice, maybe the barely controlled emotion, maybe the exhaustion, maybe the pleas, made him step back. He nodded once, stiffly, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. "Okay," he said. "Okay, we'll talk at school. But Evie?" She waited. "I'm not giving up on you, on us. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But what we had was real. I know you felt it too. And I'm going to prove to you that I can be better. That I'm worth another chance. I'm going to fight for you." Before she could respond, before she could tell him not to, that there was nothing left to fight for, he turned and walked away. She watched his retreating back until he turned the corner and disappeared. Mrs. Kim's door closed with a soft click. Evie stood there for another moment, hand on the door, forehead pressed against the cool wood. Then she closed it, locked it, turned around. Giwan was standing in the middle of her living room, exactly where she'd left him. But something had changed. His arms were crossed over his broad chest, his jaw was tight, and his eyes were blazing. "Messy relationship?" he said, voice carefully neutral. The question, so casual, so unbothered, almost amused, made something snap inside her. "You were eavesdropping," she shot back, more defensive than she intended. "You were lying." The accusation hung between them, sharp and cutting. "I wasn't." You paused. He took a step toward her. Just one. But it felt like the entire room shifted. When he asked if there was someone else, you paused. For 3 full seconds, you said absolutely nothing. You just stood there, not answering, while he waited, and I listened, and the silence stretched on forever. That doesn't mean anything, doesn't it? Another step. His dark eyes never left hers. Because from where I was standing, it sounded like you were trying to figure out how to answer. Like the truth was more complicated than a simple no. Like maybe, just maybe, there is someone else. Evie's back hit the door. She hadn't even realized she was retreating. "He's my ex," she said, hating how defensive she sounded. "Breakups are messy. It's complicated. That doesn't mean he wants you back." "I don't want him back." "Then why didn't you just tell him that?" Giwan was close now. So close she had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. So close she could feel the heat radiating off his body. Why all the, "we'll talk later, and I need space"? Why not just end it cleanly? Tell him there's no chance? Tell him to move on? Because it's not that simple, isn't it? His voice dropped, went rough. Intimate in a way that made her skin prickle. He cheated on you. He hurt you. He made you feel like you weren't enough. You owe him nothing. So why? He stopped. His jaw clenched. A muscle jumped in his cheek. Why does part of you still want to let him down easy? I don't. You do. I heard it in your voice. Every gentle word, every soft deflection. You still care about him. Of course I care about him. I dated him for 6 months. You can't just turn off your feelings like a light switch. You can't just stop caring about someone because they hurt you. Can't you? The question was quiet. Dangerous. Loaded with something she couldn't name. They stared at each other across the tiny space between them. The air felt electric, charged with something that had been building since the moment she'd knelt beside him in that alley. What do you want me to say? Evie finally asked, and she was horrified to hear her voice shake. That I told him to get lost? That I slammed the door in his face? I was trying to be kind, Giwan. I was trying not to hurt him more than I already have. Is that so wrong? Why? Because he's hurting. Because he made one stupid mistake and he's sorry. And he's a good person who doesn't deserve... He kissed the girl who's been torturing you for 2 years, Giwan cut in, voice hard as steel. The girl who spilled coffee on your thesis. The girl who made racist comments about why you got into your program. He chose to kiss her, Evie. That's not a mistake. That's not an accident. That's a choice, and choices have consequences. It was a dare. I don't care if it was a dare from God himself. He stepped even closer, and now there was barely an inch between them. She could smell the faint scent of her soap on his skin. He'd showered this morning while she made breakfast. Could see the individual strands of silver gray in his hair catching the morning light. He chose to hurt you. He doesn't get your kindness after that. He doesn't get your gentle words and your careful explanations and your promises to talk later. He hurt you. That's the end of it. You don't get to decide that, don't I? His hand came up, not touching her, but close enough that she could feel the heat of it near her face. I'm the one who had to stand there and listen to him beg for another chance. I'm the one who had to hear you pause, Evie, when he asked if there was someone else, like you were actually considering telling him the truth. What truth? There is no truth. You're leaving. You said so yourself. So what was I supposed to say? Anything. Something. Not just... He stopped. His jaw clenched so hard she could see the muscle jump. Not that pause. Not that silence that told him everything he needed to know. What did it tell him? That you thought about me. The words came out low, rough. That when he asked if there was someone else, for 3 full seconds you thought about me. Her breath caught. They were so close now. So close she could count his eyelashes. Could see the faint scar at his temple. Could feel the barely controlled tension radiating through his frame. So what if I did? The words came out before she could stop them. Quiet. Almost defiant. So what if I pause because of you? What difference does it make? You're leaving. You made that very clear. So it doesn't matter what I thought about or who I... She stopped, swallowed hard. Who you what? He pressed, voice going even lower. Nothing. Who you what, Evie? Nothing. It doesn't matter. Say it. No? Why not? Because it's stupid. Because we barely know each other. Because this whole thing is insane and temporary and... Say it anyway. She looked up at him, at his dark, intense eyes, at the way he was looking at her like her next words might break something fundamental between them. Who I can't stop thinking about, she whispered. The confession hung in the air between them like something alive. Giwan closed his eyes, exhaled slowly through his nose. When he opened them again, the look on his face was something close to devastation. You're going to destroy me, he said quietly. I think you have that backwards. No, sweetheart, I really don't. The endearment, rough and soft at the same time, did something, complicated to her heart. They stood there, frozen, neither moving, neither breathing, the space between them crackling with everything they weren't saying. Then Giwan stepped back. I need to check your bandage, Evie said, desperate to do something with her hands, to focus on something practical, something that made sense. It's fine. Let me check it anyway, please. For a long moment, she thought he'd refuse. Then he lifted his shirt without a word. Evie's hands shook slightly as she knelt on the floor in front of the couch. She'd done this dozens of times in her clinical rotations, had changed bandages for burn victims, surgical patients, trauma cases, had seen every kind of wound imaginable. But kneeling in front of Giwan, watching him lift his shirt to reveal the taut, muscled planes of his abdomen, the breathtaking white tiger tattoo sprawling across his chest, the fresh bandage at his ribs, felt nothing like her clinical rotations. Her fingers fumbled slightly with the medical tape. You're shaking, he observed quietly. I'm fine. You're not fine. I said I'm fine. She peeled back the bandage with more force than necessary. The wound looked beautiful. Clean edges. No signs of infection. New pink skin already forming at the margins. His body was healing with remarkable speed. It looks good, she said, keeping her voice professional. Clinical. You heal fast. I told you, I've had practice. She risked a glance up at his face. He was watching her with those dark, penetrating eyes. Watching her with an intensity that made her hands shake harder. How many times? She asked before she could stop herself. How many times have you been hurt like this? Does it matter? I'm curious. Curiosity is dangerous. So is a lot of things. Answer the question. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, I stopped counting after the first dozen. Her hands stilled on the bandage. Dozen? You've been shot a dozen times? Shot, stabbed, beaten, various injuries, occupational hazard. The casual way he said it made her stomach turn. That's not a life, Giwan. That's a death sentence on installment. It's the only life I know. Evie, he said, and something in his voice made her breath catch. Yeah? Look at me. She was looking at him, had been looking at him the entire time, but she understood what he meant. She met his eyes fully, held his gaze. What are we doing? He asked quietly. I'm checking your wound. That's not what I mean, and you know it. She did know it. She knew exactly what he meant. I don't know, she whispered. I don't know what this is. This is a bad idea. I know. I'm dangerous for you. Being near me puts you at risk. I know that too. Then why? He stopped. His jaw clenched. The muscle jumped in his cheek. Why do you keep looking at me like that? Like what? Like you want me to kiss you. Her heart slammed against her ribs so hard she thought he must be able to hear it. I never said. You didn't have to. His hand came up, slowly, giving her time to pull away. His fingers touched her chin, gentle but firm, tilting her face up toward his. It's written all over your face. Every time you look at me, every time we're in the same room, you look at me like I'm something you want and know you shouldn't have. You're wrong, she whispered. But they both knew she was lying. His thumb traced her lower lip, the touch so light it made her shiver. Tell me I'm wrong, he murmured. Tell me you don't think about that kiss. Tell me you don't lie awake at night wanting it. Tell me you're completely unaffected, and I'll believe you. She couldn't. She couldn't tell him any of those things because they'd all be lies. The tension was suffocating. You're leaving soon, she said instead. Right? Something flickered across his face. Something that looked almost like pain. Soon, he agreed. Then this, whatever this is, it doesn't matter. In a few days, you'll be gone and I'll go back to my normal life and none of this will matter. Will you? Will I what? Go back to your normal life. Yes. Liar. He released her chin and stood abruptly, pulling his shirt down. Walked to the window and stared out at Seoul spread out below them. Evie stayed kneeling on the floor, heart racing, not understanding what just happened. I should go to class, she said, even though her legs felt like water. You should. But neither of them moved. The silence stretched. Finally, Evie forced herself to stand. To gather the used bandages and tape. To act normal even though nothing about this felt normal. I'll be back around 6, she said to his back. Okay. There's food in the fridge if you get hungry. Okay. Giwan, just go, Evie. His voice was tired, strained. Please. Just go. So she did. She grabbed her bag and left. And the entire walk to campus, she could still feel the ghost of his thumb on her lip. Classes were a blur. Evie sat through her morning lecture on pharmacology without hearing a single word. Mary kept shooting her concerned looks, but didn't press, for which Evie was grateful. By the time she got home that evening, she was exhausted and nervous. She didn't know why she was nervous. It was just Giwan, just the man who'd been staying in her apartment for days now. Just the crime lord who'd kissed her senseless 2 nights ago. Nothing to be nervous about, right? She unlocked her door and stopped. The smell hit her first. Food, real food. Not instant ramen or convenience store kimbap. Actual cooking. She stepped inside slowly, eyes widening. Giwan was in her kitchen. Actually in her kitchen, somehow making the tiny space look even smaller with his broad frame. He was cooking, actually cooking. Using ingredients she didn't even know she had. He'd found her cutting board, her good knife. He was chopping vegetables with precise, efficient movements that spoke of years of practice. You cook? She said, unable to keep the surprise from her voice. He glanced over his shoulder. When necessary. Where did you learn? Something shuddered in his expression. Does it matter? The sharpness in his tone stung. I was just asking. Don't. He set down the knife with more force than necessary. Don't try to get to know me better. Don't ask questions about my life. Don't try to... He stopped, exhaled. When he continued, his voice was quieter, but no less firm. Just don't, okay? The rejection hurt more than it should have. Why not? Because it makes this harder. Makes what harder? He turned to face her fully. His eyes were dark, tired. Something in them that looked almost like regret. Leaving, he said simply. The word landed like a stone. You should be happy, he continued, turning back to the vegetables. Your life can go back to normal. No more hiding a criminal in your apartment. No more lying to your friends. No more looking over your shoulder. Right, normal. The word felt hollow in her mouth. Silence stretched between them, heavy and uncomfortable. Evie set her bag down, tried to think of something to say, came up empty. Finally, she just moved to help. What are you making? Bulgogi, kimchi, fried rice, nothing fancy. Smells amazing. It'll be ready soon. They worked in silence. She set the table. He finished cooking. The routine should have felt natural, comfortable. Instead, it felt like goodbye. Hours later, Evie lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. Sleep felt impossible. She could hear Giwan on the other side of the screen, could hear the subtle sounds of him moving, breathing, existing just meters away. Both of them awake, both of them pretending. Finally, she gave up. When she emerged from behind the screen, he was sitting on the couch, staring at nothing. "Can't sleep?" she asked softly. He looked up. Even in the dim light from the street outside, his eyes were intense, burning with something she couldn't name. No. Just that, nothing more. She should go back to bed, should maintain distance, should protect what was left of her heart before he left and took it with him. Instead, she sat beside him, not touching, but close. Close enough to feel the heat of him. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Things I shouldn't." "Like what?" He turned to face her fully. In the dim light, his face was all sharp angles and shadows. "Like how wrong this is," he said quietly. Then he kissed her. It started slow. His hands framed her face with a gentleness that broke her heart. Evie's hands fisted in his shirt, pulled him closer, poured everything she couldn't say into the kiss. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. "That was a mistake," he said, but his hands were still in her hair. "Probably," she agreed, but her fingers were still gripping his shirt. Neither let go. "I should apologize. Are you going to?" "No." His hands slid from her face to her waist, pulling her flush against him. She could feel every hard plane of his body, could feel the wild thunder of his heartbeat matching hers, could feel him falling apart the same way she was. When they broke apart this time, they were both shaking. "We should stop," she whispered against his lips. "We should." Neither moved. "If we don't stop now, I know." They lay there in the dark, holding each other, both knowing this was goodbye even if neither could say it. Eventually, Evie's eyes grew heavy. "Don't leave while I'm sleeping," she whispered. "I won't," he promised. "I've got you." She believed him. She shouldn't have. But she did. Her last thought before sleep claimed her was how safe she felt. How right. How much she wanted this to be real. Evie woke to silence. That's what told her immediately. The apartment was too quiet. She sat up, heart already sinking, knowing what she'd find. But she had to check anyway. She stumbled out of bed, bare feet on cold floor. The couch was empty. The blanket he'd used, gone. She ran to the kitchen. No coffee cups, no evidence of breakfast. The ingredients he'd used last night, put away like they'd never been touched. Bathroom. Her first aid kit was back in the cabinet, exactly where it had been before he came. All the bandages, the antiseptic, the medical tape she'd used on him, gone. She checked the trash with shaking hands. Empty. He'd taken it with him. Every trace of him. Erased. Like he'd never been there at all. Like the last few days were a dream. Evie sank onto the couch. That couch where they talked and kissed, and tried to process it. He was gone. Really gone. Then she saw it. A piece of paper on the counter, partially hidden under her mail. Her hands shook as she picked it up, unfolded it. Sharp, precise handwriting. Just 4 words. "Forget you ever met me." No signature, no explanation, no apology for the promise he'd broken. Just 4 words that felt like a knife to the chest. Evie read them once, twice, 3 times. She should crumple the note, throw it away, forget it like he'd told her to forget him. Instead, she folded it carefully, put it in her pocket, and tried to understand why her chest felt so hollow. She should be relieved. He was a criminal, a dangerous man. He'd brought violence and risk into her carefully ordered life. She should be dancing that he was gone. So why did she feel like crying? Why did she keep looking at the couch, expecting to see him there? Why did the apartment feel wrong without him in it? This is stupid, she told the empty room. I barely knew him. But her voice cracked on the words. And when she pressed her fingers to her lips, she could still taste him. Could still feel the ghost of his kiss. Stupid, she whispered again. The apartment didn't answer. The next morning, Evie stood in front of her mirror. If he could just disappear, she could move on too, right? Right. She pulled out her best outfit, the one she'd been saving. A fitted burgundy turtleneck that hugged her curves, tucked into high-waisted caramel wide-leg pants that made her legs look endless. Her favorite heeled ankle boots, small gold hoops, a delicate gold chain. She did her makeup carefully, not too much, just enough to look polished. Put together. Her cornrows were fresh and neat. She looked good, really good. See? She told her reflection. Totally fine, completely over it. Moving on? Her reflection didn't look convinced, but Evie grabbed her bag and headed out anyway. Mireille spotted her the moment she walked into the courtyard. Okay, who are you and what have you done with my best friend? Evie turned. What? You look... Mireille circled her, eyes wide. You look amazing, like seriously hot. New outfit? New everything? What's the occasion? No occasion, just felt like looking nice. Liar, Mireille's eyes narrowed. This is about a guy. Oh my God, there is someone. That's why you've been so weird lately. Who is he? When did this happen? Why didn't you tell me? There's no one, Mireille. Then why do you look like you're trying to prove something? Because she was. She was trying to prove she was fine, that she could move on. That 3 days with a stranger hadn't completely rewired her brain. That a kiss could be forgotten. That she was still the same Evie Thompson who had her life together. She was failing spectacularly. I just wanted to look nice, okay? Is that a crime? No, but lying to me is. Mireille linked her arm through Evie's. Come on. Spill. I know something happened. I know there's a guy. And I know you're not telling me something major. So spill. Mireille, please. Just not today, okay? Something in her voice. Maybe the barely... To talk, I'm here. You know that, right? I know. Thank you. They walked to class together, Mireille chattering about normal things. Campus gossip, upcoming exams, clinical rotation schedules. Evie pretended to listen, but all she could think about was dark eyes and a dangerous smile and the ghost of someone who'd been there and now wasn't. She was walking to her afternoon class when she heard her name. Evie, wait, Seojun's voice. She kept walking, head down, not in the mood for this. He cut her off, went down on one knee, in the middle of the crowded courtyard. What are you doing? She hissed, very aware of the students stopping to stare. I'm fighting for you. His voice carried across the courtyard. Students pulled out phones. I love you, Evie Thompson. I made a mistake. The worst mistake of my life. But I'm not giving up on us. I'm not giving up on you. Give me another chance, please. Everyone was watching. Everyone was waiting. Everyone had their phones out. And all Evie could think was, you're not him. You'll never be him. You don't make my heart race just by existing. You don't see me the way he did. You're safe and normal and everything I should want, and you're not enough anymore. Seojun, get up. Not until you say yes. Not until you give me another chance. Evie, please. I'm begging you. Someone in the crowd whispered. Someone else laughed. This was humiliating. For both of them. No, she said clearly, firmly. My answer is no. Seojun blinked like he couldn't process what she just said. What? But I love you. I made one mistake, and I can't forgive it. I'm sorry, but I can't. Is there someone else? His voice rose. Because I know something's different. I know you've changed. Is there someone else? The entire courtyard went silent, waiting. No, Evie said, and the lie tasted bitter. There's no one else. There's just me, realizing I don't love you anymore. And you deserve someone who does. Someone who wants to give you another chance. And that's not me, Seojun. I'm sorry. But it's not me. His face crumpled. For a moment, she almost took it back. Almost said yes, just to make that look go away. Then she remembered dark eyes, and a dangerous smile, and a kiss that had ruined her for anyone else. And she knew she couldn't. I'm sorry, she said again, softer this time. I really am. Then she walked away, left him kneeling in the courtyard, left everyone staring and whispering and filming, left it all behind. By that evening, the video was everywhere. Evie's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Notifications, messages, calls from numbers she didn't recognize. Heartless nursing student rejects public proposal. Is she cheating? The mystery man no one's talking about. He deserves better. She's cold. Imagine publicly humiliating someone like that. Comment after comment. Video after video. Her face, Seojun's face, the rejection playing on loop. Evie turned off her phone, sat in her apartment, the same apartment where Giwan had kissed her 5 days ago. She could still feel the ghost of his hands in her hair, still taste him on her lips, still hear his voice saying, "Sweetheart," like it was a secret only they shared. "This is ridiculous," she said out loud to the empty room. It was 3 days. 3 days. But it had felt like more. So much more. And now he was gone. And she was here. And nothing made sense anymore. A week crawled by. Evie went through the motions, classes, studying, clinical rotations, avoided Seojun in the hallways, smiled when Mirai asked if she was okay, pretended everything was fine. At night, she sat in her apartment and tried not to think about him. Failed spectacularly. 1 week and 2 days after he left, Evie was walking home from campus when she saw them. A couple on the street corner. Young, happy, in love. The man pulled the woman close, kissed her forehead. She laughed, bright and joyful. Something inside Evie cracked. She made it to her apartment before the tears came. Sank onto the couch. That couch where he'd kissed her, where he'd held her, where they'd talked through the night, and finally let herself feel it. All of it. The loss, the confusion, the ache of missing someone she'd known for 3 days, but who'd somehow become essential. When the tears finally stopped, she was exhausted, wrung out, empty. She pulled out the crumpled note she'd been carrying everywhere. Read it for the 1,000th time. "Forget you ever met me. I've tried," she whispered to the empty room. "God, I've tried so hard." She looked around her apartment, the kitchen where he'd made cooked for her, the floor where they'd sat and talked, the window where he'd stood staring out at Seoul, the bed where he'd held her while she slept. Every corner held memories of him, and she couldn't escape them. "Why can't I get that kiss out of my head?" she whispered. The apartment didn't answer. It just echoed with silence. And the ghost of someone who'd been there and now wasn't. Someone who'd seen her, really seen her, and then left anyway. Someone she'd known for 3 days and would remember for the rest of her life. She folded the note, put it back in her pocket, right over her heart, where it felt like it belonged. "You don't exist anymore." Whoa, my soul Afro lovers. Why can't she get that kiss out of her head? Because some kisses aren't just kisses. Some kisses are declarations, promises, points of no return. Some kisses ruin you for everyone else. And Evie just got ruined by a man who disappeared like smoke. A man who erased every trace of himself except the one thing he can't erase. The way he made her feel. Let me ask you something. Have you ever missed someone you barely knew? Someone who was in your life for a blink but somehow became essential? Someone you know you should forget but can't? Drop a comment. 1 word. How are you feeling right now? Because part 3 is coming and I'm telling you, nothing is over. He left. But leaving doesn't mean gone. And Evie is about to find out exactly what it means when a crime lord decides you're worth coming back for. Subscribe. Turn on notifications Share this with someone who needs their heart destroyed in the best way. And if you made it this far, if you're sitting here, unable to stop watching, comment hooked. So I know you're ready for what comes next. Are you ready for part 3, like Mrs. Kim?